Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Find a quiet position, relax your shoulders, and allow your breathing to slow down. This is a long, calm story designed to help you unwind, relax, and gently drift towards sleep. Nothing in this video is meant to be intense or demanding. Instead, we'll move slowly through the story together, exploring its details at a peaceful pace. If your mind wanders while listening, that's completely okay. You don't need to focus on every word. Just let the story play quietly in the background as your thoughts soften and your body relaxes. Tonight's story will take us through the history of something interesting, exploring how it began, how it grew over time, and the many small moments that shaped it along the way. So settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let the story begin. Origins and early life of Gambit. Birth and early childhood. Gambit, whose real name is Remy LeBeau, was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the Marvel Comics universe. His story begins with a mix of tragedy and mystery. Born to a prostitute named Belladonna Boudreau's associate, though often the specifics of his parentage are obscure, Remy's early life was marked by danger and instability. In some storylines, it's implied that he grew up in a lower-class neighborhood, surrounded by crime and the supernatural elements of New Orleans, which would later shape his persona as a thief and gambler. From a young age, Remy displayed remarkable intelligence, agility, and a natural charisma. These traits set him apart from his peers and drew him toward a life of adventure, and often mischief. He quickly became adept at card tricks and sleight of hand, skills that would become hallmarks of his later identity as Gambit. The Thieves' Guild. One of the defining elements of Remy LeBeau's early life was his connection to the New Orleans Thieves' Guild, a secret society of master thieves with strict codes and deep roots in the city's history. Remy was recruited into the guild at a young age due to his dexterity and cunning. Under their tutelage, he learned the arts of pickpocketing, burglary, and hand-to-hand combat. The guild also emphasized secrecy, honor among thieves, and the cultivation of unique skills. Interestingly, the Thieves' Guild was not just criminal in nature. It had its own hierarchy, traditions, and rivalries. Remy quickly distinguished himself as both a talented operative and a loyal member, though he sometimes struggled with the guild's moral code when it conflicted with his own sense of justice. It was during this period that Remy met Belladonna Boudreau, who would later become both his mentor and his romantic interest. Belladonna, a skilled fighter and later a key figure in the guild, recognized Remy's potential, teaching him advanced combat techniques and further refining his abilities. Their bond would remain central to his early life and personal identity. Discovery of mutant powers. Remy's mutant abilities manifested during adolescence, coinciding with his deepening involvement in the Thieves' Guild. His primary power is kinetic energy manipulation, which allows him to charge objects, most famously playing cards, with explosive energy. This power gave Remy a tremendous advantage in his thieving career, allowing him to outsmart rivals and evade capture. It also made him a target for those who sought to exploit or control mutants. Over time, Remy refined his powers to a high degree. He developed extraordinary agility, acrobatic skill, and reflexes, allowing him to move through the streets and rooftops of New Orleans with near-superhuman grace. His energy-charged objects became his signature weapon, earning him the codename Gambit, both for his love of cards and the strategic gambles he took in combat and life. Family conflicts and personal struggles. Remy's early life was not without turmoil. The Boudreau family, into which he was romantically and culturally entwined, had its own complex dynamics. In particular, Remy's connection to Belladonna Boudreau created a tension between love and loyalty, as family obligations sometimes clashed with personal desires. Additionally, the Thieves' Guild and their rivals, especially the rival Assassins' Guild, posed constant threats. Remy's life was a delicate balance of allegiance, survival, and ambition. His choices during this period shaped not only his skills, but also his moral compass, setting up the internal conflicts he would struggle with later in his X-Men career. Early adventures and reputation. Even before joining the X-Men, Remy gained a reputation in New Orleans and beyond. Tales of a charming, enigmatic thief who could escape any trap and outwit any opponent circulated in both the criminal underworld and among law enforcement. His style combined classic gentleman thief elements with a flair for danger and romance. He often took high-stakes gambles, not just with money, but with life-or-death situations, a thematic reflection of his code name. These early adventures also exposed him to the larger Marvel universe, including minor encounters with heroes, villains, and supernatural elements. While initially focused on personal gain, Remy's experiences gradually introduced him to concepts of responsibility, heroism, and morality, planting the seeds for his eventual transition into the X-Men. Personality formation. By the end of his early years, Gambit had developed his core personality traits. A charm and wit, Remy is a master manipulator and conversationalist, able to defuse situations or seduce allies and foes alike. A loyalty and honor despite his criminal past, he adheres to a personal code and remains fiercely loyal to those he loves. Risk-taking. True to his name, he constantly takes calculated risks, seeing life as a series of gambles. Morally flexible heroism. His early life forced him to operate in gray areas, making him a nuanced, sometimes unpredictable ally. Transition to the X-Men. By his late teens or early 20s, Remy's life as a rogue began to intersect with the mutant community. Stories suggest that during this period he started to feel the need for a larger purpose beyond personal gain. Key encounters with mutant heroes, some hinted at, some shown in early comics, exposed him to the ideals of heroism, leadership, and teamwork. His skills, once purely for survival and profit, became assets in the fight for mutant rights and protection. This transition marks the bridge between his origin story and his role as an X-Man, setting up his first official appearance in the X-Men comics, where he would bring his charm, powers, and complex moral outlook to the team. Part 2, joining the X-Men and early comic storylines. Arrival in the X-Men universe. After his formative years in New Orleans, Gambit's reputation as a master thief and mutant began to reach the ears of the larger Marvel world. The X-Men, under the leadership of Professor Charles Xavier, were facing increasing threats from anti-mutant organizations, hostile mutants, and government agencies. Xavier's mission to protect mutants while fostering peaceful coexistence with humans created a unique opportunity for someone like Remy. His first appearances in the comics, particularly in Uncanny X-Men 266th, depict him as a mysterious and charming figure, immediately catching the attention of both the X-Men and their enemies. His past as a thief created tension within the team, especially with members who valued law and moral clarity, but his skills, wit, and loyalty gradually won their trust. Integration into the team. Initially, Gambit's integration was uneasy. His methods were unconventional. He preferred stealth, subterfuge, and strategic manipulation rather than direct confrontation, which clashed with more traditional X-Men approaches. Despite this, his contributions were undeniable. Combat prowess. Gambit could take down multiple adversaries at once, using both acrobatics and his kinetic-charged cards. Strategic thinking, a natural tactician, he often devised plans that combined misdirection and precision strikes. Mutant abilities, his kinetic powers were invaluable in neutralizing threats that conventional attacks couldn't manage. Over time, the team recognized that his rogue style complemented their own, particularly in covert operations. He became especially close to Rogue, whose powers of absorption and conflicted personality mirrored Gambit's own duality of heroism and roguishness. Early missions and story arcs. The Muir Island Saga. One of Gambit's first major storylines with the X-Men involved the Muir Island conflict, which pitted the team against the Shadow King and an invasion of psychic-dominated adversaries. In these early missions, Gambit's combination of agility, kinetic powers, and street-smart strategy proved vital. He often acted as a lone operative behind enemy lines, exploiting his criminal background to navigate dangerous situations. Brotherhood of Mutants conflicts. Early in his tenure, Gambit also clashed with members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, particularly Mystique, who had complex ties to Rogue. These encounters tested both his combat skill and his moral code, as he often had to choose between defeating enemies and protecting innocents caught in the crossfire. Gambit's nuanced morality began to shine, showing a man who could operate outside strict ethical lines while still upholding a personal honor. Relationship with Rogue. Perhaps the defining personal storyline of Gambit's early X-Men career, is his romantic relationship with Rogue. Their bond is marked by deep affection and persistent conflict. A. Emotional connection. Both characters share histories of trauma and isolation, creating a mutual understanding. Physical barrier. Rogue's ability to absorb powers and memories makes physical intimacy dangerous, creating tension and longing. Or moral resonance. Gambit's flexibility and charm draw Rogue out of isolation, while Rogue's moral grounding helps Gambit navigate heroic responsibilities. This relationship, fraught with complications, became central to many X-Men storylines, influencing missions, personal decisions, and even leadership dynamics within the team. Early villains and personal challenges. Gambit's early tenure in the X-Men was not without peril. Several recurring threats tested both his abilities and his moral judgment. Mr. Sinister. Gambit's mysterious past and mutant powers made him a target for Sinister's experiments. Sinister's obsession with genetics and mutant potential forced Gambit to confront his own origins repeatedly. The Marauders. As agents of Sinister, the Marauders often clashed with the X-Men. Gambit's knowledge of stealth and tactical infiltration became critical in countering their deadly ambushes. Thieves' Guild rivalries. Even after joining the X-Men, Gambit occasionally faced threats from his former guild, including betrayals and attempts to pull him back into a criminal life. These challenges reinforced Gambit's identity as someone caught between two worlds, the rogue and the hero. His choices during these arcs cemented him as a layered character who could navigate both morally grey and black and white conflicts. Notable skills and development. During this period, several aspects of Gambit's abilities and skills were further developed. 1. Kinetic manipulation mastery. Early X-Men missions forced him to use his powers creatively, charging objects other than cards, such as coins, daggers, and even improvised items, to explosive effect. 2. Combat technique evolution. Under the guidance of team members like Wolverine and Storm, Gambit honed his hand-to-hand combat beyond guild training. 3. Team coordination. Gambit learned to integrate his solitary style into group strategies, balancing his independent flair with team objectives. 4. Gambit's luck. His codename reflects not just his powers, but also his reliance on chance and intuition, a theme explored in many early arcs. Personality evolution. By the end of his early comic storylines, Gambit had grown into a figure who balanced charm, danger, and heroism. Key aspects of his personality crystallized. Roguish heroism. He remains a thief at heart, but one who chooses to use his skills for noble causes. A strategic morality. Gambit often chooses the most effective path, even if ethically ambiguous. Emotional depth. His experiences with Rogue, family, and enemies highlight his capacity for loyalty, love, and introspection. These traits make him not just a supporting character, but a fully realized hero with internal conflicts that resonate throughout X-Men narratives. Transition to major X-Men arcs. Gambit's early tenure set the stage for his involvement in major X-Men arcs of the 1990s and 2000s, including the Phalanx Covenant, where his cunning and strategic mind were critical. Onslaught Saga, requiring him to operate both independently and as a key team member. Age of Apocalypse, his alternate universe counterpart, added layers to his character mythology. These storylines expanded his role from charming rogue to essential team member, showcasing both his powers and his complex humanity. Part 3, Key Comic Arcs, Powers Evolution, and Major Battles. After establishing himself as a capable and enigmatic member of the X-Men, Gambit's role in the team expanded during the pivotal storylines of the 1990s. His presence brought a blend of roguish charm, strategic cunning, and explosive power that became essential in high-stakes missions, the Muir Island Saga, and strategic leadership. Although he had participated in early Muir Island missions, Gambit's strategic mind became more pronounced during prolonged battles against psychic threats. He often acted as an intermediary between the X-Men's field operatives and Professor Xavier's broader strategic plans. Gambit's rogue background lent him a unique perspective. He frequently anticipated enemies' moves in ways that more conventional heroes could not. His ability to combine misdirection with raw kinetic energy made him invaluable against telepaths and infiltration scenarios, particularly when stealth and agility were required over brute force. The Phalanx Covenant. One of the first large-scale arcs in which Gambit's skills were critical was the Phalanx Covenant. The X-Men faced the techno-organic alien Phalanx, whose assimilation threatened both humans and mutants. Gambit's ability to manipulate kinetic energy allowed him to take out technological constructs that resisted conventional weapons. His agility enabled him to navigate environments where heavier mutants like Colossus would be slowed, often positioning him as the team's point of infiltration. During this arc, his flair for risk-taking came to the forefront, as he frequently chose to operate alone, betting on his luck and instincts to survive. The Onslaught Saga. The Onslaught storyline tested every member of the X-Men, and Gambit's moral flexibility became both an asset and a liability. He was tasked with missions requiring subtlety, often involving espionage or sabotage against Onslaught's forces. His ability to improvise using explosive-charged objects to distract or incapacitate enemies became crucial in key turning points. Despite the chaos, Gambit maintained a steady sense of focus and initiative, earning the respect of even the most skeptical team members. Relationship with Rogue deepens. As the X-Men faced existential threats, Gambit's relationship with Rogue deepened, though it remained complicated due to her powers and personal traumas. They frequently fought side by side, developing a unique combat synergy. Gambit's precision and tactical foresight complemented Rogue's raw strength and ability absorption. Their connection became a recurring emotional anchor in storylines, with moments of tenderness and tension providing depth to otherwise action-driven narratives. Writers often use their relationship to explore themes of trust, vulnerability, and personal sacrifice. Alternate Universe, Age of Apocalypse. Gambit's character was further explored through alternate universe storylines, most notably the Age of Apocalypse. In this reality, his upbringing diverged from his standard origin, creating a darker, more morally complex Gambit. While retaining his charm and skill with kinetic energy, this version often operated in even murkier ethical territory, reflecting the harsher environment of Apocalypse's reign. Encounters with familiar allies and enemies in this timeline emphasized the core traits that defined Gambit: independence, resourcefulness, and a tendency to rely on intuition and calculated risks. Powers evolution. Throughout his tenure with the X-Men, Gambit's abilities continued to evolve. Initially known primarily for charging playing cards with kinetic energy, he expanded his skill set to include versatile kinetic weapons. Coins, knives, and improvised objects became tools of precision and destruction. Enhanced reflexes and agility, his movement became more fluid and acrobatic, allowing complex combat maneuvers even against multiple opponents. Energy manipulation mastery. He learned to control the timing and magnitude of his kinetic charges, producing controlled detonations for strategic purposes rather than indiscriminate explosions. A tactical ingenuity. Beyond raw power, Gambit's ability to read the battlefield and predict opponents' strategies became nearly unparalleled, especially when combined with his rogue instincts. Key battles and adversaries. Gambit faced a series of formidable adversaries that shaped his reputation as both a rogue and a hero. Mr. Sinister. Sinister remained a recurring threat, often targeting Gambit due to his mutant genetics and ties to Rogue. Gambit's encounters with Sinister tested both his cunning and his moral limits, as Sinister frequently forced him into situations where compromise or deception was necessary. The Marauders, acting under Sinister's command. The Marauders repeatedly challenged Gambit's agility and tactical brilliance. These conflicts honed his stealth and improvisational skills, forcing him to rely on ingenuity over sheer strength. The Shadow King. Gambit's ability to operate independently made him ideal for missions against psychic threats like the Shadow King. His quick thinking and unpredictability allowed him to neutralize threats that more conventional approaches could not. The Thieves' Guild rivalries. Even after joining the X-Men, remnants of his past life continued to influence his missions. Rival thieves and guild leaders occasionally attempted to draw him back into criminal endeavors, challenging his loyalty to the team and forcing him to reconcile his past with his present. Media expansion, animated series and video games. During the 1990s, Gambit's popularity surged beyond comics. He appeared prominently in X-Men, the animated series, where his charm, Cajun accent, and morally ambiguous heroism were highlighted. In the series, he often acted as the X-Men's rogue operative, undertaking infiltration missions and diplomatic negotiations. His relationship with Rogue was explored with subtle humor and emotional depth, cementing him as a fan-favorite character. Story arcs adapted from comics, such as Confrontations with the Marauders, showcased his kinetic powers in visually dynamic ways, further establishing his identity for a wider audience. Gambit also became a staple in X-Men video games, where his kinetic card-throwing and acrobatic moves translated into exciting gameplay mechanics. These adaptations reinforced his signature style, blending agility, risk-taking, and strategic use of powers. Film adaptations. Although his cinematic debut came much later, early concept art and scripts in the 2000s explored how Gambit could fit into the X-Men film universe. His complex personality, morally grey past, and romantic tension with Rogue were often emphasized as central traits, though studio decisions delayed his live-action appearance. The anticipation for a full Gambit film highlighted his enduring popularity across media. Continued character development. Throughout these arcs, Gambit's personality matured without losing its defining charm. He remained a risk-taker and a gambler, but his experiences with the X-Men tempered his impulsiveness. His loyalty and sense of honor grew more pronounced, especially in missions that demanded teamwork and sacrifice. Writers often emphasized the duality of Gambit, a man who straddled the line between rogue and hero, thief and strategist, lover and warrior. Part 4, Alternate Universes, What If? Scenarios and spin-off appearances. Age of Apocalypse. One of the most iconic alternate realities for Gambit is the Age of Apocalypse, a timeline where Professor Xavier is dead. Apocalypse rules North America, and mutants and humans exist in a war-torn world. In this timeline, Remy LeBeau is darker, more morally ambiguous, and hardened by years of conflict. Unlike his playful, charming mainstream counterpart, Age of Apocalypse Gambit operates as a survivalist with a sharper edge, relying on his kinetic powers and thieving skills to survive against Apocalypse's forces. In this timeline, his romantic tension with Rogue persists, but both are more pragmatic and battle-hardened. Their missions often involve rescuing oppressed mutants, striking against Apocalypse's regime, or securing critical resources. This version of Gambit underscores his versatility as a character. Regardless of timeline or circumstances, his core traits, strategic thinking, risk-taking, and loyalty to those he loves, remain central, though expressed with darker undertones. Ultimate X-Men. In the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Gambit's origin is modernized, reflecting contemporary storytelling and teenage perspectives. Here, Remy LeBeau is portrayed as a slightly younger, more impulsive mutant with a rebellious streak. His powers are consistent with the main continuity, but his personality is more overtly flirtatious and cocky, emphasizing his gentleman thief archetype. Ultimate Gambit often clashes with authority figures, yet he demonstrates moments of genuine heroism, particularly when the stakes are high for his team or loved ones. This version allowed writers to explore alternate personality facets and interactions, presenting him to new readers without the decades of backstory from the original continuity. What If? Scenarios. Marvel's What If? Series frequently examines pivotal decisions in a character's life. For Gambit, these stories provide glimpses into paths not taken. What if Gambit never joined the X-Men? This storyline examines a life fully committed to crime, where his skills and powers serve the Thieves' Guild. It highlights how much his heroic potential relies on being embedded within the X-Men network, and how his sense of morality is shaped by exposure to a team fighting for good. What if Rogue absorbed Gambit's powers permanently? In another scenario, writers explore the consequences of Rogue absorbing both Gambit's kinetic energy and memories. The story emphasizes the emotional and ethical complexities of their relationship, showing the depth of his influence even in alternate circumstances. These what-if tales reinforce the duality of Gambit's character. His choices define his morality, and the same core traits can lead to heroism or anti-heroic survival depending on context. Marvel Zombies. Gambit also appears in the Marvel Zombies universe, a dark alternate timeline where heroes and villains alike become flesh-eating monsters. In this reality, his playful cunning and charm are twisted into survivalist cunning for predatory purposes. These narratives often explore exaggerated aspects of his personality, turning his risk-taking and strategic genius into tools for grotesque ends. While horrifying, these alternate depictions highlight the adaptability of his character and the storytelling flexibility that makes him compelling. Video games and interactive media. Beyond comic pages, Gambit has had extensive appearances in video games, including X-Men Legends series. His kinetic card-throwing and acrobatics are translated into dynamic gameplay, emphasizing strategic attack and crowd control. A Marvel Ultimate Alliance series, Gambit's speed and agility allow for rapid attacks and evasive maneuvers, with signature-charged objects as special moves. Fighting games, titles like X-Men vs. Street Fighter and other crossover fighting games showcase his kinetic powers, agility, and unpredictable combat style, highlighting his appeal as a versatile, high-skill character. These adaptations ensure that both fans and newcomers experience Gambit's personality, powers, and signature flair, often with creative liberties that retain the essence of the character. Animated series. Gambit's presence in animation extends beyond the 1990s X-Men, the animated series, Wolverine, and the X-Men. In this series, Gambit is portrayed with a mix of humor, charm, and professional competence, often acting as a bridge between the team's stealth operations and direct combat missions. His relationship with Rogue is revisited, this time with more overt banter and emotional stakes. X-Men Evolution. While less central, Gambit's appearances highlight his flirtatious, independent personality and heroic tendencies, ensuring consistency with his core traits while adapting him for younger audiences. Live-action adaptation attempts. Gambit's live-action adaptation history is long and convoluted. Initial plans for him in the X-Men film series faced multiple delays. The 2000s had multiple casting rumors, with actors such as Taylor Kitsch attached to proposed standalone projects. The character was ultimately planned for a solo feature focusing on his Cajun roots thief persona and romantic tension with Rogue. As studio delays, script rewrites, and shifting cinematic universes prevented a release, but promotional art, trailers, and fan anticipation kept Gambit relevant in pop culture discourse. Expanded universe appearances. Gambit also appears in Marvel novels, motion comics, and audio adaptations, where writers explore his life in New Orleans pre-X-Men, often expanding on the Thieves' Guild and family connections. His moral dilemmas when faced with high-stakes missions, highlighting the tension between self-interest and heroic responsibility. Interpersonal relationships, particularly with Rogue and other X-Men members, in long-form narrative formats not feasible in standard comic issues. These appearances reinforce Gambit as a multifaceted character whose appeal lies not only in powers or charm, but in his internal conflicts, charisma, and adaptive intelligence. Expanding character archetype. Across alternate universes and spin-offs, Gambit's character consistently explores themes of duality, rogue versus thief, hero versus opportunist, love versus duty. Adaptability. Regardless of universe, timeline, or medium, Gambit maintains his core identity, adjusting tactics and morality to survive and thrive. Risk and strategy. His codename is Literal. He continually gambles, whether in battle, romance, or life decisions. These traits allow writers and creators to reimagine him in virtually any scenario, maintaining continuity of character while exploring new narrative possibilities. Part 5. Animated series, films, and video game adaptations in depth. X-Men, the animated series. Gambit's most influential media debut came in X-Men, the animated series which aired in the 1990s. This show introduced a wider audience to his Cajun charm, roguish personality, and morally complex heroism. His characterization balanced charisma, humor, and occasional sarcasm, making him a standout among the ensemble cast. Personality and traits. The series emphasized his flirtatious and playful demeanor, especially in interactions with Rogue. His love of gambling, casual rebellion, and risk-taking in missions reflected his comic book persona, making him instantly recognizable. Powers visualization, kinetic card throwing and acrobatic feats were animated dynamically, showcasing the unique visual style of his combat. His powers became a defining feature, setting him apart from other mutants who relied on brute strength or raw energy. Story arcs, episodes often explored Gambit's complex past, including his ties to the Thieves Guild, his relationship with Rogue, and his struggle between loyalty to the X-Men and his own self-interest. This reinforced his identity as a morally flexible yet fundamentally heroic character. The series cemented Gambit as a fan favorite, introducing his personality to viewers who might never read the comics. His distinctive accent, smooth demeanor, and unpredictable tactics became iconic. X-Men, Evolution, and Wolverine, and the X-Men. In X-Men, Evolution, Gambit appeared in guest roles, maintaining his playful and cunning personality, though adapted for a younger audience. He often served as a mentor or occasional team consultant, showcasing his tactical knowledge and flirtatious nature. In Wolverine and the X-Men, Gambit was depicted with more maturity and emotional depth. His romantic tension with Rogue was central, often driving interpersonal drama within the team. Missions often highlighted his stealth and acrobatics, showing how his combat style adapted to modern storytelling and animation techniques. The series expanded on his loyalty, cunning, and moral code, further establishing him as a multidimensional character rather than a comic book archetype. Video game adaptations. Gambit's transition into video games allowed fans to interact with his powers directly. Key appearances include X-Men Legends and X-Men Legends 2: Rise of Apocalypse. Gambit's kinetic energy attacks, agility, and strategic gameplay mechanics mirrored his comic abilities. Players could throw charged cards, perform combo moves, and execute acrobatic maneuvers, reflecting both his combat prowess and playful style. A Marvel Ultimate Alliance. These action RPGs allowed Gambit to shine as a versatile character. His kinetic powers could be used for area of effect attacks, crowd control, and precision strikes. His mobility made him ideal for both offensive and evasive strategies. Of fighting games in titles like X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Gambit's speed, energy attacks, and unpredictable fighting style translated well into the competitive fighting genre, highlighting his uniqueness among other Marvel heroes. Other appearances, various mobile and casual X-Men games included Gambit as a playable character, often emphasizing his charm and agility over raw power, consistent with his archetype as a cunning rogue. Film adaptations and live-action attempts. Gambit's live-action journey has been complex. Although he was initially intended to appear in earlier X-Men films, production delays and casting changes postponed his on-screen debut. The most notable attempt involved Taylor Kitsch casting. A standalone Gambit film was announced, exploring his New Orleans origins, Thieves Guild connections, and romantic tension with Rogue. Promotional art emphasized his signature trenchcoat, staff, and kinetic card powers. Delays and cancellation, script rewrites, shifting studio priorities, and changes in the cinematic universe led to multiple delays, eventually shelving the project. Despite this, the anticipation reinforced Gambit's popularity and demonstrated his cultural significance. Though he has not fully appeared in a live-action film as of 2026, the extensive development history reflects the challenge and appeal of translating his morally gray, charming, and complex character to cinema. Motion comics, novels, and audio adaptations. Beyond screens, Gambit has appeared in motion comics. Visual adaptations of comic storylines preserved his personality, powers, and story arcs, often emphasizing his New Orleans roots and charm. Novels, writers explored his internal monologues, moral dilemmas, and past as a thief, offering insight into his motivations and emotional depth. Audio adaptations. Voice acting allowed Gambit's Cajun accent, humor, and romantic tension with Rogue to be showcased, deepening audience connection to his character. These formats allowed exploration of his psyche, internal conflicts, and relationships in ways that complemented comic and animated portrayals, global popularity, and cultural impact. Gambit's appearances across media solidified his status as one of the X-Men's most beloved characters. Charisma, his charm, risk-taking, and flirtatiousness made him relatable and entertaining. Complex morality. Fans appreciate his morally gray decisions, which reflect real-world dilemmas and make him a nuanced hero. A visual appeal. His trench coat, staff, and kinetic powers are visually distinctive, creating an iconic silhouette recognized even by casual fans. A romantic dynamic. His ongoing relationship with Rogue is one of the most enduring and compelling in Marvel lore, often cited as a core element of his appeal. Gambit's media representation reinforced the traits established in the comics while adapting them for broader audiences. Across animated series, video games, and attempted films, he consistently embodies the themes of charm, agility, strategy, and morally nuanced heroism. Part 6. Behind-the-scenes creation, writers, cultural impact, and legacy. Creation and concept. Gambit was created by writer Chris Claremont and artist Jim Lee, debuting in Uncanny X-Men 266th. The character was designed to bring a new flavor to the X-Men universe, combining charm, danger, and mystery in one package. Claremont and Lee drew inspiration from classic gentleman thief archetypes, characters like Arsène Lupin and Zorro, melding them with the mutant superhero genre. Aesthetic choices. Jim Lee's artwork gave Gambit a distinctive look. Trench coat, headgear covering his hair, and an athletic, lean physique. The design emphasized fluid movement, agility, and a sense of stylish danger. Personality development. Claremont envisioned a morally ambiguous character, one whose rogue instincts could clash with heroic ideals. Gambit's charm, flirtatious nature, and risk-taking behavior were intended to create a contrast with more conventional X-Men like Cyclops or Wolverine. Cajun roots, Gambit's Louisiana heritage, complete with Cajun accent and cultural references, gave him a distinct voice and grounded him in a recognizable, colorful setting. This helped differentiate him from other mutants, who lacked a strong regional or cultural identity. Writer contributions and character evolution. After his creation, many writers contributed to Gambit's ongoing development. Chris Claremont established his origins, relationship with Rogue, and roguish persona, blending charm, romance, and moral ambiguity. Scott Lobdell expanded Gambit's role in team dynamics, focusing on his strategic abilities and romantic tension with Rogue. Fabian Nicieza explored his early life, ties to the Thieves' Guild, and ethical dilemmas, reinforcing the hero with a past archetype. Peter David and other writers contributed to alternate universe and non-canon stories, including What If, scenarios and crossovers, highlighting Gambit's versatility as a character. These creative voices ensured Gambit remained complex and evolving, balancing charisma with ethical ambiguity, and keeping him relevant through decades of comic storytelling. Editorial decisions and popularity. Gambit's popularity led editors to feature him prominently in X-Men storylines. Merchandising, action figures, trading cards, and collectible statues reflected his visual appeal and fan-favorite status. Spin-offs and solo stories. Attempts to develop solo comic series emphasized his origins, Thieves' Guild connections, and New Orleans roots. While some runs were short-lived, they highlighted his standalone potential beyond team dynamics. A media adaptation input. Editorial decisions influenced how Gambit appeared in animated series, games, and attempted films, ensuring consistency with his established character traits while appealing to broader audiences. Gambit's enduring popularity also stemmed from his visual uniqueness, romantic intrigue, and moral complexity, elements that allowed him to stand out among the large X-Men ensemble. Cultural impact. Gambit has had a lasting influence on the X-Men franchise and superhero media. A moral complexity in heroes. Gambit embodies the morally grey hero, blending criminal past and heroic present. This paved the way for similar characters in comics and films who balance personal flaws with heroic instincts. Romantic dynamics in team stories. His relationship with Rogue set a precedent for nuanced romance in superhero teams, integrating emotional stakes with action-driven plots. Popularizing Cajun culture in comics. Through accents, dialogue, and cultural references, Gambit introduced mainstream readers to a regional flavor rarely seen in superheroes. Influence on other media. His character inspired writers and designers for video games, animated series, and attempted film portrayals, contributing to his status as a cross-media icon. legacy, and modern interpretations. Even decades after his debut, Gambit remains a core member of the X-Men mythos. Fan favorite polls and fan discussions consistently rank him among the most popular X-Men, alongside Wolverine, Cyclops, and Storm. Merchandising and collectibles. His trench coat, staff, and kinetic cards are immediately recognizable, with toys, statues, and cosplay designs keeping him visually relevant. Cinematic potential, despite delays. Ongoing interest in a live-action Gambit film reflects both fan demand and the character's adaptability. Narrative versatility. Writers continue to explore his duality, romance, and heroic evolution, ensuring that new audiences encounter him with fresh perspectives while remaining true to his core identity. Gambit's influence extends beyond the page. He is a model for characters who straddle lines between rogue and hero, humor and danger, romance and rivalry, demonstrating that complexity and charisma can coexist in superhero storytelling. Themes associated with Gambit. Several recurring themes define Gambit across comics, media, and fan perception. 1. Risk and reward. His codename is literal, both in battle and personal choices. Gambit constantly gambles, reflecting a philosophy of life as a series of calculated risks. 2. Redemption and loyalty. Despite a criminal past, he chooses heroic paths, often guided by loyalty to friends and loved ones rather than abstract morality. 3. Love and vulnerability. His dynamic with Rogue humanizes him, showing emotional depth beneath his confident exterior. 4. Dual identity. Gambit balances multiple identities, thief and hero, Cajun outsider and X-Men team member, playful rogue and serious strategist. These themes continue to resonate with readers, contributing to his long-standing relevance in Marvel storytelling. Part 7. Full story across all media. Gambit, born Remy LeBeau in the vibrant city of New Orleans, Louisiana, begins his story amid the streets, bayous, and criminal underworld that define his formative years. As a child, he displayed remarkable dexterity, intelligence, and charm, which would become his hallmarks. His early life was deeply intertwined with the Thieves' Guild, where he trained as a master pickpocket, burglar, and hand-to-hand combatant. It was here he met Bella Donna Boudreau, a mentor and future romantic figure, whose influence honed his physical and tactical abilities. During adolescence, Remy's mutant abilities emerged, giving him kinetic energy manipulation powers, which allowed him to charge objects, most famously playing cards, with explosive energy. These abilities, combined with his agility and intelligence, made him a natural thief and a cunning strategist. Yet even amid crime and guild obligations, Gambit's sense of honor and personal morality began to form, hinting at the hero he would become. His journey from Rogue to X-Man begins with his first encounters with Professor Xavier's team, where he demonstrated both his skill and unpredictability. The X-Men, facing threats ranging from the Shadow King to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, quickly recognized his value. His strategic thinking, stealth, and kinetic abilities made him indispensable in missions where subtlety or improvisation was required. His initial clashes with the team evolved into respect and trust, particularly as his romantic bond with Rogue deepened, providing emotional grounding and recurring narrative tension. Gambit's early story arcs, including Muir Island, the Phalanx Covenant, and Onslaught, showcased his ability to operate both independently and as a key team player. He became known for improvisation, daring risk-taking, and tactical brilliance, often executing missions others could not. His relationships within the X-Men, especially with Rogue, Wolverine, and Storm, helped shape his development as a hero who could balance independent action with teamwork. Across decades, Gambit's story expanded into alternate realities and what-if scenarios, offering insights into the versatility and resilience of his character. In the Age of Apocalypse, he is darker and more survivalist, yet still guided by core traits of loyalty and cunning. In the Ultimate Universe, he is younger, cockier, and more impulsive, highlighting different aspects of his personality while preserving his essential charm. What if? Stories such as Gambit never joining the X-Men or Rogue absorbing his powers permanently explore the fragile interplay between choice and destiny, reinforcing his duality as both rogue and hero. Gambit's influence extends beyond comics. His animated series appearances, from X-Men, the animated series, to Wolverine and the X-Men, emphasize his charisma, Cajun roots, and morally flexible heroism. These portrayals popularized him for new audiences, highlighting his kinetic powers, acrobatic fighting style, and signature humor. Video games, such as X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, translate his powers into interactive experiences, giving players first-hand access to his card-charging techniques, agility, and strategic combat. Even in fighting games like X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Gambit's unpredictability and speed distinguish him from other characters, cementing his identity as a fan favorite. Attempts to bring him to live-action cinema illustrate both the challenges and popularity of the character. Multiple development cycles, including the planned solo film starring Taylor Kitsch, highlighted his potential for a cinematic universe. Although delays prevented the project's completion, fan anticipation and promotional materials reinforced Gambit's enduring appeal, proving that his combination of charm, heroism, and moral ambiguity resonates across audiences. Behind the scenes, Gambit represents a deliberate creative effort to add depth, mystery, and charisma to the X-Men ensemble. Chris Claremont and Jim Lee designed him as a gentleman thief with distinct visual identity, Cajun personality, and morally grey complexity. Subsequent writers, including Scott Lobdell, Fabian Nicieza, and Peter David, expanded his narrative, exploring his Thieves Guild past, personal loyalties, romantic relationships, and ethical dilemmas. Editorial support, merchandising, and multimedia appearances solidified him as a cultural icon and a character whose appeal transcends comic pages. Several recurring themes define Gambit across media: risk-taking and strategic gambles, redemption and loyalty, romantic depth, and the struggle to balance dual identities. He embodies the tension between freedom and responsibility, rogue instincts and heroic ideals, charm and danger. His ongoing narrative, spanning pre-X-Men adventures, heroic missions, alternate universes, and media adaptations, illustrates a character who is dynamic, versatile, and enduring. In modern interpretations, Gambit remains an essential member of the X-Men, celebrated for his unique combination of style, cunning, and heart. From the alleys of New Orleans to the battlefields of mutant conflicts, from animated screens to interactive games, he continues to captivate audiences, demonstrating that even a gambler can become a hero, provided he bets on the right side. His legacy is that of a character who bridges worlds, the rogue and the hero, the playful and the serious, the personal and the universal, ensuring his place in both Marvel history and popular culture for generations to come.